All right, what's up, everybody? So today's video is ears over meters. A lot of times you'll hear in tutorials and things like that, people say, trust your ears at the end of the day. If it sounds good, it is good. And so there's a lot of truth to that. Obviously, I mean, really what I wanted to do is just point out some specific examples of how this applies. And basically what it comes down to is that there's sort of like objective sound, objective levels that you can measure in sound. And then there's also perceived sound. So basically it's loudness versus perceived loudness. And this is something you can kind of research, look up. Basically the idea is that there's an objective level of a sound that you could measure, and you could get a reading on that sound. Let's say it's a clap, let's say it's a keyboard, whatever. And then there's how we actually perceive that sound. So our ears kind of have a built-in EQ of, we have an EQ of our own, and this actually affects how we hear certain levels and certain frequencies and stuff. And so that's why, for example, you could make a mix, have 10 different instruments going, have each one of them read out a peak at -6 dB, but they're all sounding at different levels. One instrument sounds much louder, one instrument sounds much quieter. There's going to be some variation there because, we're not robots. We don't hear everything perfectly equally. There's variation and stuff. And that probably sounds pretty vague and kind of confusing. So what I want to do is just show you some examples of how this works. I want to just kind of narrow in on one instance. And then you'll be able to see how you can actually apply this to your own mixing. And hopefully this will kind of help you out. So one thing I want to point out, this is kind of what I want to focus on for this particular video, is that a sustained sound is going to sound louder than a short, quick decay sound. Okay, so for example, a clap is going to sound quieter at -6 dB than the strum of a guitar at -6 dB. So again, a sustained sound sounds louder, we perceive it as louder than a quick, short decay sound. Even if they're both peaking at the same level, let's say -6 dB, we're going to perceive them differently. And this is how you this might be, maybe this is something your own mixes are kind of missing, is the application of this kind of theory. So I have loaded up here a clap, and then a strummed guitar. Okay, so I want to play them together, and then you can let me know which one sounds louder. Okay, so obviously things are subjective, depends what you're listening out of, speakers, headphones, studio monitors, your iPhone. But for the most part, most people would agree that the guitar pretty much overpowers the clap. So again, the strum guitar is a sustained sound, even though you'll notice they're both peaking at -6 dB. Okay, so even though they're both peaking at -6 dB, the sustained sound is always going to sound louder than the quick decay sound. So how we can kind of apply this is take a look again. Okay, and you can kind of see right off the bat, you can hear that taking the sustained sound and lowering the volume a bit is actually going to give you a nicer, kind of smoother, more balanced blend or mix. And that's why only looking at the meters and where sounds are peaking is not really going to give you the result that you're looking for in your mix. And so this is something you can apply. Let's say you have your kick and your clap hitting, but then you also have the bass guitar, the keys, all these other things. If you're taking all of those instruments and only setting them to the same peaks, trying to make sure they're all level, like I said earlier, they're all going to sound different. And so it's good to look at levels, make sure things aren't clipping, kind of see where your audio is at, get an idea of what's happening in the mix, but also going back to, like other people mentioned in other videos, kind of trusting your ears. If you have a clap going, you also have keys that are, like I said, a sustained sound, you're probably going to want to bring the level on those keys down, even though just looking at the peak, they might be at the same level. So I just want to point out, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. We'll just play this one more time. And at the end of the day, this is where a lot of people go wrong, is because this clap, while it does peak at -6 dB, you have to ask yourself, where does the majority of the sound actually live? Because if it's only peaking at -6 dB for half a millisecond, and then the rest of the sound is living at -9 dB, -10 dB, then sure, it hits -6 for a second, but the majority of its lifespan is somewhere else. Whereas opposed to the guitar, yeah, it doesn't stay at -6 forever either, but it's still mostly living -6, -5, -4. That's where the majority of the sound is. And so again, that's why just looking at peak levels are not the end of the story. It's not, you're not done there. Okay. And so you might actually see in certain plugins or different things that you're using, you might see RMS. It means root mean squared. It's basically a different way to look at your levels, where instead of looking at the peak of them, an RMS meter is telling you where they live on average. So it basically, instead of just looking at the peaks, it's where does the majority of this sound live? It's peaking at -6 dB, but most of its life is being spent on average at -7, -8. Whereas compare that to the clap, it peaks at -6, but very quickly is going down to 0. And so it's different ways to look at the levels. The RMS thing, I don't, if you're, especially if you're new, if it's already a lot of information, don't even worry about it. Just want to mention it in case maybe next time you open up your plugin, you see that. Now you kind of have a better idea of what's going on there. But don't overwhelm yourself. Don't worry about it if you're not there yet. And so that's pretty much it. That is, like I said, loudness versus perceived loudness. There's different things going on. You can measure objective levels, but you also have to be aware of how we subjectively hear them and experience them. And so perceived loudness versus loudness, that's one concept. Another video I'm going to do is on the Fletcher-Munson curve, another kind of helpful theory to understand. I'm going to save that for another video. So hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this helps. And I am very responsive on my videos. So if you have any questions, any comments, pretty much reply to everything within 2 minutes. So let me know. All right. Peace.